everybody, Brad out here in the Montana garage. Haven't been on for a while, so I thought I would pop on and give a quick update. I hurt my back at work, so I've been kind of taking it easy for a while. Haven't done too much work out in the shop. I've done a couple small things, some body work on Trey's truck and a little bit of stuff here and there where I didn't have to bend over or lift anything. But the back's finally coming around. I'm back to work and thought I'd come out and try to get a couple things done out here in the shop. So what are we up to? First, wanted to show you where we're at right now. 55 Chevy, our main project. Frame is ready to be painted. Body, the underside's all ready to be primed and seam sealed and painted. Got a little bit more work in the trunk to get that ready. And then we can start putting that bad boy back together. 69 Chevelle, as usual, it's just a work shelf. But maybe someday. And the 57, I've been tinkering on a little bit, driving it around a little bit. And right here I got a short list of things that need to be done this winter so that next summer I can finally get this thing on the drag strip. First thing we're going to do is she sits a little low in the front. It's got original coil springs that have been cut. I'm going to put the stock springs out of the 55 in there and see if that raises her up just a touch so she's not dragging the headers everywhere I go. We'll see what happens. All right, we're out in the Montana garage working on the 57 today. Although I kind of like the way it sits, the stance, if you will, it does have a little bit, has a little bit of a rake, and maybe it's a little aggressive. I don't know. I didn't think I was going to want to raise it up. But the problem is, she's a little low up here, and I don't know if you can tell, the headers are like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches off the ground. And that's without me in there. Once I get in there, they're a little closer. And they pretty much scrape everywhere I go, any little tiny bump. So it's got to come up one way or the other. I was trying to debate if I wanted to raise the car or go back to like a fender well header or something. But then I'm probably going to have to change a bunch of other crap. And so I threw a jack under the front and I raised it up a couple inches. And I actually don't mind the way it looks. So we're going to go with that first. What it has in it now is 2-inch drop spindles, and then I'm pretty sure it's just the stock coil springs that have had some number of coils cut off. The problem is I don't know how much they've been cut, so I don't know how much the coil spring has dropped it. But what I have and what I'm going to do is right here are the stock springs that I tore out on my 55. So I'm going to get them cleaned up. And then I'll tear this stuff apart and I'll throw the stock springs in here. And I'm hoping it's going to raise the body about 2 inches. And she still will have a little rake to her and it'll be a little more drivable. So we'll tear into it and see what happens. Time to change these springs. The car sits a little low. Headers are dragging all the time whenever there's a little pebble in the road, basically. So I'm going to take them out of there, throw these stock springs from my 55 in there, and hopefully that's not going to raise it up too much. Looks like these things might have quite a bit cut off them. These are stock, I believe these are stock springs that have just been cut, but I never really knew how much. So I guess I'll find out for sure. I'll compare them when I get out, but I'm hoping that the new springs aren't going to raise it up too high. If they are, I guess we'll take it back apart and try something new. But that's what we're working on today. I got the homemade spring compressor tool in there. That's what's holding the tension right now. I already got everything busted loose, like I said. And I loosened the 4 bolts holding the A-arm back there. And as I take tension off the spring compressor tool with the nut right there, the whole A-arm lowers down, relieving the tension on the spring so I can get it out of there. So we'll keep on going and see what happens. All right, so I released some of the tension with the nut from the top of the tool there, and I just checked it, and she's loose. So I can get that piece of all thread out of there, and we'll pull this little spring out of here and see how short it is. All right, there's the spring I got out of there. I believe it is a stock spring that's been cut, and I'm not sure what this little rubber doohickey up here is all about. I don't know if it's some sort of padding, or I'm guessing, being the car was too damn low, they probably cut it, and then I had to put that in there to raise it up just a tad. So the problem I'm gonna have is that's the spring I plan to put in there. That's a stock 55 Chevy spring, and I want to raise the car a couple inches. It just seems a lot freaking bigger, but I don't know. Obviously, with the compressed weight and everything, maybe it's going to work out. So I guess it's not that hard to change them. So I'll put it in there and see how it sits. So this is a cut spring. There's also drop spindles, so it's going to be lower than stock, even with the stock spring in there. So we will put her in there and see what happens. Making a little progress. I got the new spring jammed in there, and I looked up in the hole there and down on the A-arm to make sure it is clocked or turned right, so it fits in the little notches how it's supposed to. And now I got the spring tool back in there, and I'm cranking, tighten her down to crank on the spring to put some pressure in it. Lift that A-arm up. And as I get a little closer, I'll have to make sure the spindle there goes on the bottom of the ball joint, and then also the A-arm has to go into those studs there that are sticking down. So I'm sure it'll be a bit of a rodeo getting all that lined up when I get there, but we'll keep cranking on it, see what happens. Well, I got one side done and put back together. Put the taller spring in there. It definitely raised it up. Maybe a touch more than I would like, but I was going for 2 inches. It's about 2.5 inches taller at this point right here than it was with the other spring. So it's close to what I was looking for. It's definitely more drivable. The headers went from like 3 fingers to I can get my whole hand under there. So I probably can drive it without dragging the header everywhere. So I'll leave it like this. I just got one side done. I got to throw the floor jack under there and scoot the front end over, so I got room over here between the 57 and the Chevelle to tear this side apart. So this one's still got the short spring in it. Let's see, let me grab a light. You can see how tight it is between that rubber stop there and the frame, that suspension bumper stop thing, whatever they're called, I don't know. Only got about 1 inch, if that, on this side. And then over here on the one I just did, let's see how there's a couple inches of gap there. So we'll have a little more suspension travel in case we do wheelies and slam back down to the ground. I don't know if it'll help, but anywho, said it's maybe a little taller than I was thinking of, but I don't know, just a little. And it looks, I liked the aggressive rake on it before. It's kind of, I can't get far enough away to get a good shot of it in the shop here, but you know, it's still raked. Front of the tire is still up, tucked into the fender, so like I say, maybe 1 inch lower someday, but I'm gonna guess she'll probably stay like this for a while. All right, well, I'm gonna pull it over and tear the other side apart. All right, I guess I've got to go with plan B. I tried to throw the floor jack under the front of the car. You know, you guys have all done that, right? And the floor jack's got wheels on it and you can spin it over. I do it all the time in here with the rear of the car to just get the car moved over out of the way so I got more room to work or whatnot. But I've never tried to do the front of the car, and apparently with the big tires in the back, it doesn't let it spin in the front like it does in the back if the front's on the ground. So I guess I got to move some stuff and either try to push it or maybe even fire it up and jockey it around a little bit. So we'll see if we can get that done. All right, I got her moved over. So I got a little working room here between the 57 and the Chevelle that's buried in plastic and body working tools. Garbage inside. Someday I should do something with this thing. Anyways, back to where we're at here. So, time to take this side apart. Again, I can't really get far enough away, but you can, I don't know if you can tell. Whoa, she's got a little lean to her because that new spring on that side. So I don't know if, when I put this side in, if that's going to make it overall taller or if it'll just match that side. If it stays the height it is on the other side, I can probably live with it, but I just don't want it to get taller. So, and it might be leaning funky or whatever now because of the different springs. You can see how much tire is buried by the fender. And then now I got even less room on this side. But now the tire is just pretty much right. You know, it changes with the angle of the camera here, but it's pretty much right even with the top of the tire. Before, this point right here, straight to the ground, was 16 3/4 inches, and now it's about 19 1/4. So I was looking for 2 inches, I got about 2 1/2. So I don't know, beggars can't be choosers, right? It'll probably end up staying like this. Unless, like I say, when I get the other side in, it raises it up further. So I guess there's only one way to find out. Stop flapping my yapper and get to work. All right, working on the second side of this coil spring replacement. Got the new spring in and cranked up enough on it with the compressor, the spring compressor gizmo that I made, where I got the ball joint castle nut back on. So the front's together, so now I got to use the jack and jack the A-arm up and try to get it lined up with the bolts sticking down through the frame where it goes. So that's what we're working on now. Getting there. All right, next day after I replaced the coil springs, I put the stock 55 Chevy springs in there. It's definitely a little taller in the front than I like, but it doesn't look quite as bad as I thought it did last night in the shop. I did go for a quick burn, put a few miles on it, see if they were going to settle any. I mean, these aren't new springs, they're originals from my 55, so you know. This car does have a big block in it, but it's got aluminum heads. It's missing a bunch of sheet metal in the front, so weight-wise, it's probably not much more weight on the springs than just the stock 55 with the small block. I don't know, so now I got to decide if I want to take it all back apart to cut a coil to drop it down just a little bit more. I don't want to go too much because that's what got me in trouble in the first place, but she just sits a little high, but once I stand back and look at it, it's not as bad as I thought. So decision time, I guess. What to do, what to do.